It's been, whoa there. So yeah, it's been a while since we've been here, but thanks for having us. We're here for a very short visit this time, but I wanted to come and visit you guys and just share an update on the work that we're doing in Uganda and some prayer requests. So looks like the PowerPoint's working. It was working? All right. Well, yeah, just starting with some introductions. So my name is Jesse Van Gorkom. My wife and my family sitting in the back, Hannah Van Gorkom, and my 3 kids. The oldest is Addie, Asher, and then Kira. There's Addie, Asher. Asher is my son, and then Kira is the little girl. And then my mom, Vicky Van Gorkom, my brother, Aaron, joined us this morning as well. So yeah, there's a picture of my family. Our family loves to hike. We love backpacking. We love camping. So this was a recent camping adventure we had together as a family. And then I want to give a little history. It's been a while since we've been here. I don't know how many new people are here. So I wanted to give a quick history on our family. So I think we start with Hannah. We go to the next slide. So Hannah grew up in Michigan. Her dad worked in the auto industry. And she has 4 siblings. This picture only has 3, but she has 4. And next picture. She grew up learning. She wanted to learn how to play the accordion, and the reason for that was she wanted to take that out to the mission field. From a young age, she was interested in missions and sharing the gospel and reaching out. Next slide. And so she did that in university. She went out as an intern to Uganda to work with the ministry, grassroots ministry, and a small cafe, business as missions. And she came back again after university. I don't know, how many years later, Hannah? How many years later did you go? It was in 7 years later. She came back to work with the same ministry again, and that's when we met. So we met in Uganda. Next slide. So I grew up in Ethiopia. My parents, Fred and Vicky Van Gorkom, were there for 25 years. And I grew up coming to this church as a kid whenever we were here on furlough. My grandparents lived here or attended this church, Roy and Eunice Van Gorkom. But yeah, I grew up in Ethiopia. Next slide. I grew up watching my dad help others with his training and skills as a veterinarian. And I saw a need for trained individuals working with Ugandans or Ethiopians, sharing their faith through that and helping people with their needs. Go ahead. And so after university, I graduated in mechanical engineering, and I wasn't quite sure what to do, thinking about master's degrees or work. And God connected me to the OP mission in Uganda with Bob Wright doing water development and construction through my dad's work with CVM. He was there on a trip and met the mission there, and so I was connected to the mission in Uganda. So I went after university. I went to work with the OPC there. Next slide. And I did a lot of water development, drilling boreholes, solar work, construction. Next slide. Yeah, so drilling wells, training Ugandans how to drill wells, and using some of my mechanical engineering with design and fabrication. Next slide. So in 2014, beginning of 2014, I was on a work trip and was passing through Jinja, and I met Hannah, that was her first day in country. So we met in Uganda, got to know each other. Actually, it was a kind of a forced connection through Facebook because our mutual missionary friend was threatening Hannah to contact Bob to friend me on Facebook. So Hannah just friended me on Facebook. She tried to avoid it, but that's how we got connected. So we got married in 2015 and came back with the OPC towards the end of 2015, and I helped build a clinic to help continue the construction on a clinic. And I continue to do solar and water work around the station. And then my wife, Hannah, used her background with science and administration and accounting to help with the Nakale clinic there. And then at the end of that year, God connected us to Engineering Ministries International, which was a way I could apply my mechanical engineering and my heart for discipleship and working with the Ugandans. So I wanted to share a little bit about EMI. What is EMI? What is Engineering Ministries International? It's a group of engineers, architects, surveyors, construction managers from around the world. We have 11 offices around the world. In Uganda, our office is over 50% Ugandan. So we've hired a lot of Ugandan design professionals, and we do mentoring and discipling with them as well. Go ahead. And then the way EMI projects work, so we're not on the front lines preaching the gospel necessarily, except maybe for me a little bit in the workshop or on the construction sites, but EMI helps other ministries. So we're a very similar model to MAF, Mission Aviation Fellowship, or other ministries that do work to help other mission organizations. So we partner with Christian ministries around the world, and there's steps. There's different levels we can get involved. The first level would be selecting. I'll share a little bit about that later. That's something I've been involved with this last year. How do we select which ministries we partner with? But that's the first step. And then we start with a feasibility study. Usually ministries will come to us with this idea or this heart to do this work in some location. And so we look at it with them, we analyze it, we give them some advice and direction. And a lot of times we're able to help ministries with just that part. And then if they've advanced far enough in their plan and their model and all of that, then we can work on a master plan. So usually they'll have land somewhere, they want to build something. And so we're able to look at their land and do a survey and help them lay out their buildings in the best way possible to serve the ministry and the people. And then we move on to concept design. After the master plan is done, we do concept design and then detailed design. And then in Uganda, we have, this is a number of years ago, 15 years ago now, they started a construction management program. So we're actually able to help a certain percentage of those design projects and those ministries. We're actually able to help them build. And it's a big benefit. It's very helpful because in Uganda, like I think around the world, often it's hard to find a contractor that you can trust. And there's so many ways that people wheel and deal with in Uganda with contractors. For example, if you had this building, you wanted to build a church like this, and you had the plans that EMI had designed, and we couldn't help you build the church, we would connect you with a contractor, or you would find your own contractor to do the work, and they would probably look at your plans and see you wanted windows at that height, and then they would just kind of throw the plans out the window and do what they wanted, or what they have always done, and not follow the design plans. And we've had many different ministries have reached out to us saying, we started this project using your plans, and the contractor has stolen the money or isn't able to finish the project, or we're having all these problems. So we're able to step in and help them complete that project and even go on to further phases with our own construction teams and managers. And the workshop, what we joined in 2017 to help start the metal fabrication side of the workshop. And then I've since held lots of different roles within that, but we basically help build the trusses and the furniture and the doors and the windows, whatever the ministries need for their buildings. Because you don't have Home Depot, you don't have Lowe's, you can't just go out and buy a prefab door very easily. So it's a lot of custom work, and we're able to do that with the workshop in combination with our construction program. So just a few pictures. This is a picture of our workshop. We have, right now, I think we have about 15 guys, depending on how much work we have. In the past, we've had up to 24, 25, if we have a lot of work. Right now, our workload is a little bit lower, so we have a little bit less. And we don't have the work to keep the guys busy. But yeah, that's our workshop. We have a steel side on one side and then the carpentry shop on the other side. So it's all within one building. And it's right next to our EMI office in Kajansi in Kampala. So we do cabinetry. So we built this is a library that we built for Amazima Ministries International in Jinja. I'm just going to go through these quickly. This is the Gem Foundation. They work with handicapped kids, orphans, and provide a home for them and health care and a safe place. We've partnered with this ministry since, I don't know, it's been a long time, since 2017, I think. Many different phases of the project. We've built assisted living homes, children's homes, a clinic, director's home, and then recently we built a accessible, I think it's called ADA, playground. So the kids can actually have outdoor activities and playing. So this is just an example of what we do. Through this, the workshop has got involved with structural steel, doing the roof systems. Right now we're working on one of their buildings, finishing up a roof system for them. Go ahead. Installing our steel trusses and roof system on top of the masonry, brick and mortar that our construction team has done. And then a key part of what I feel like is the most important part, but often gets sidelined because of project work, is discipleship. So in our workshop, we have Bible studies several times a week and a praise and worship time on Fridays, as well as a Bible study. I used to lead most of them, but now several of our Ugandan staff in the workshop have really stepped up and are helping to lead that. So it's more of a mentoring role now with that. And then this particular picture was one of our ministry partners with International Justice Mission. We helped them with a secure interview container that they were able to do interviews with people that have come out of abusive situations. So the workshop helped build this container. So we had one of their main guys come in and share with the workshop guys what is the impact of their work, so they can see, I built a container, and because of that, people have a safe place they can give their testimonies in. So that's been neat to see the guys see the impact of their work, and they have a lot of pride in the quality and the ministries they're able to help with. And we also do Bible studies on the construction sites. The construction workers and the workshop guys often don't have a lot of education, and there's a lot of young people in Uganda, and so we're able to provide work and training and education. And most of these guys now have their own side business, like on the weekends, and so if they ever leave EMI, they're able to step into that more full-time and have their own fabrication business on the side, or their own business. A lot of people have businesses. So that's been cool to see over the years, since 2017, starting with 3 guys, now up to 15 to 20, and seeing the development that has happened. I'm not doing install work anymore. We have teams that do that. I'm not doing the fabrication in the shop anymore because we have guys that know how to do it. I'm overseeing and managing and troubleshooting problems, and then working with the guys, mentoring and discipling, and then working with ministries, as I'll share shortly. All right. One other thing that's happened in the last 2 years since we moved back in 23, at the end of 23, God opened the door for us to stay on the campus of African Bible University in Leboa. It's a cool opportunity because the university, all of the professors are Reformed. It's a solid Bible teaching, university training. I think they have an incoming class of like 40, and it's growing every year. And they needed help finishing this building here, a duplex project they had started for staff housing. And so we've been living on campus. I've been doing my EMI work at the workshop, but also helping them manage construction on this duplex. And then the idea is that after the duplex is done, which it is now, we get to move back and move into the right side of that duplex when we return. And then I will continue to help ABU with other construction projects as they have needs, because we're able to live there, which is awesome. And it's a blessing for our family because it's very green. And it's hard to find a green space in Kampala because it's a huge city, lots of dirt roads, lots of pollution. So having a secure compound, our kids can run around, play in the trees, and there's grass. That's kind of a unique situation. A lot of the EMI families that live there don't have that, so that's been a blessing for our family. And I really enjoy ABU and the ministry that they have as well. All right. That does not look like I designed. There we go. So EMI, I mentioned the first part of our process is when ministries apply. So a lot of different ministries apply. A lot of different people apply through our website or in person and say, hey, we need your help with this project. So a lot of our offices don't have a lot of projects because like our office in Cambodia or an office in Egypt, there's not a lot of Christian ministries, so they have to be a little bit more aggressive in finding jobs that ministries they can partner with. In Uganda, there's a lot of Christian ministries that base there because there's a lot of troubled nations right around Uganda. You have South Sudan in the north, Rwanda, DRC, Kenya, and so a lot of ministries will base in Kampala and then work out of that. So it has kind of become a hub. So we get a lot of applications coming in. So then we need to decide how do you pick which projects? You can't take everything. How do you pick which projects you accept? And so I've been involved this last year helping to coordinate this project development team where we look at incoming applications from ministries and we set up meetings with them and we ask questions and we try to discern, is this a project that we want to support, that EMI should support? So some of the key factors would be, is it Christ-centered? Are they actually sharing the gospel? Is it direct presentation, indirect presentation, or no presentation? That kind of goes at the bottom of the list. Do they own their own land? That's a huge thing. A lot of times ministries will contact us and say, hey, we're in the process of buying land, can you help us design? And we have to say, even though we want to say yes, we have to say no, because in the past we've said yes, we've gone through months of design work, and then the land gets taken away. Or something happens with the land, there's a land issue, it's very common in Uganda, and then they don't have the land, and all of our work just goes in the trash can. So that's one of our requirements is land ownership. But then in addition to that, we're looking for leadership. How is the mission modeled? For example, if you have two ministries that apply, and one ministry is a single white person from the States saying, hey, I want to do work here, and this is what I think the need is, and this is my model, and I'm bringing all this funding, we'll talk to them about it and we'll consider it. But then if you have another ministry that comes in where you have a Ugandan and an American coming in together and saying, hey, we have this need, we have this partnership, we have this business plan set up with funding and agreements from the US organization and the Ugandan organization, and if that white person, that expat ever leaves, the ministry will continue. That's what we're looking for. So I would prefer, as an EMI, we would prefer to support ministries that have sustainability built into their mission model versus supporting something that is reliant on one person, where if that person gets sick or they have to go back to the States, all the work stops, which means all of our work is then worthless. So we're looking for sustainability and then also outreach, serving a need. We want to serve the poor through our projects. We want to help ministries that are serving the poor, serving the needy. And sometimes we'll have projects that they apply to EMI asking for design help, and it's more of something that they've kind of they pulled out of their hat to justify them being there, versus like partnering with a Ugandan over an actual need. They're looking for something to justify their existence there instead of God bringing them together and it being an actual need. So those are kind of the three main categories we look at when we review projects coming in, and then we prayerfully discern as a team which project we want to take on. And then we help them through the process of getting their land ownership, getting all of the approvals that they need from their funding organizations and boards and all of that. And then we're able to help them with the master plan, concept design, detailed design, and then construction. So it's kind of a progression. So I've been on the tail end with just the construction for a long time. And then this last year I've been involved with the very front end reviewing projects that apply. So go ahead. So at the end, I wanted to share a little Devo, something that I've been thinking about this last week. We were up in the mountains on Wednesday, and I was just sitting by a lake reading, and I read Psalm 127, and it really hit me because of the busyness of my life this last season, especially the last month before we moved here. We had to pack up our old house and get everything ready to move into the new house, and I was trying to keep projects going for the workshop, and I was just running really hard. All of us were running really hard. And when you're in that mode, you kind of develop this mentality like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. You have all these lists of things. I don't know how many sleepless nights I had because I couldn't get that wheel to stop. I was thinking of all the things I needed to do. And so this hit me hard, and so I wanted to share it with you guys this morning. So Psalm 127, the first part specifically, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves. And specifically that first part, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. That hit me because I think in the last month I've been thinking I need to do this, and really I should be working towards depending on God, not depending on my own ability to complete things. And then I found a cool Devo by Paul Tripp, and he had two really good points. I wanted to share those with you guys, and then maybe open it up to questions. I'm going a little bit fast, maybe, but hopefully people have questions, and we'll have time to just visit. So he said, Paul Tripp says, as we mature in faith, we don't go from dependence to independence, but the opposite. Grace works to make independent people willing to be more dependent on God. And that hit me. I think I've been too independent. And in the middle of busyness and ministry, that's the temptation. But really we need to be looking to be more dependent on God in the middle of that. And then whatever work God has called us to do, it's important to understand you are not wired to make it on your own. That God is your keeper, and he builds with you. Are you trying to make it on your own? Do you trust the Lord on Sunday, but live independent the rest of the week? Oh, those are some good reflection questions for us. And then may we trust the ultimate builder. So that's one of my main prayers today. My main requests for prayer is that you guys would pray that we would trust the ultimate builder as we are continuing the work in Uganda with EMI and trying to find ways to minister to people and try to finish projects and move on to our new house and all of those things that kind of cloud the picture of where grace points us back to Christ. Just pray that we would continue to trust the ultimate builder. Next slide. And we have a few prayer requests. That would be the first one, would be the ultimate, trusting the ultimate builder. And then as we go back, there's going to be some more work to do on project development, the project development team, developing a better model on how do we help ministries that don't have a lot of funding, because a lot of good ministries come to us asking for help and we want to help them, but they have very, very little funding. So how do we help that? Can we lower our quality or the scope that we provide so that we can still help them at the cost, the level that they can afford? Or so that would be one thing. Praying for wisdom as we continue to work through that, and then praying for our family as we move back. There will be a lot of transition, especially for the kids. We had to pack up our house before we left Uganda just recently, and move everything to the new duplex, which is recently finished. And then we have this whole whirlwind in the States for a few more weeks, and then we're going back to unpack everything into the new place and get everything settled. So just pray for the kids especially, that they would be grounded, they would have some stability. Neither of us really we don't want to hurt our kids through the work that we're doing. We want to be mindful of that. So just prayer for that. I think I got everything. I think that's it. Well, I'll open up. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer questions. Or we can close early and just visit with you guys. So, yeah.
How far is ABU from EMI?
Yeah, so EMI, if you think about, so the general geography of where we're at, you have the international airport in Entebbe, and it's about an hour drive up to Kampala, which is the capital city. And Kajansi, which is where there's an MAF airfield in Kajansi, it's about halfway in between. So about halfway between the international airport and the capital. Kajansi is where the EMI office is. So we actually share an office building with MAF on their airfield, and the workshop is actually on the airfield as well. Most of the EMI families live in Kampala, which is about a 30 to 45 minute commute, because it's closer to the international schools. And a lot of them have older kids and they need to have schooling. We're homeschooling so far, and we don't like Kampala, we don't like the city. So we have chosen to live farther away, and God connected us to ABU, which is only about 15 minutes, 12 minutes if I really ride fast on my motorcycle, close to the office. And I've recently started biking to work, pedal biking. That's been good too. So it's close, and we like being close. It's nicer to not have a super long commute every day. Yeah.
I remember when you presented the last time you were here, and so you're still in that area, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And your presentation today seems so much more functional, together, expansive from when you were here last time. So it continues to grow, and I guess you learn a lot of things along the way. But really impressive.
Thank you. Yeah.
Question. So the discipleship component.
Mm-hmm.
Could you share with us maybe the blessing of that 8-year journey or so, and what are some of the ways that the Lord has used that means to build up the people there? Maybe a story or two of a person that
No,
came through that.
that's a great question. So the two easiest examples would be Grace, Sosa and Grace, and Henry. So I started, Henry was there as a helper when I first joined, helping with the carpentry, and then I taught him how to weld, and over time he just showed himself honest and interested in learning. So I worked with him a lot, and now he is the workshop, I don't know what you would call it here, the workshop foreman. He basically is our manager on the floor in the workshop for both carpentry and steel. And just seeing his development in his faith from that first beginning all the way through to now. And when we're having Bible studies in the workshop and somebody says something that is like, maybe not quite, because that's theologically not accurate, I don't have to be the one to speak up all the time anymore. I used to be the one that had to address that, but now Henry and this other guy, Grace, and a few other guys, Henry is now the one that says, hey, that's actually not accurate, which is huge because it's coming from a Ugandan, not from me. So that's been really cool to see his growth, both in the management and technical side, but also discipleship through the EMI Bible studies that we have in the office and also the Bible studies that we've been running in the workshop. And then Grace joined our team like a year after I got there. We hired him as a helper and then quickly noticed that he was one of the most honest guys in the shop, and he was really good at bargaining. So I've worked with him to become our procurement manager. So he goes into town with a lot of money and bargains and finds good deals, and always reports back the right money and the right receipts. And so it's been cool to see him grow into that position and be an example to the rest of the workshop guys on how to handle money ethically, because that's a huge issue. People justify all kinds of wheeling and dealing to make money. But then also his faith, this was like a year in, maybe 2 years into my time there, I was sharing a series of studies on salvation by grace, not by works. And it just blew their minds because it's so common in Uganda is prosperity gospel and salvation by works. And so, I mean, even a lot of the pastors will be preaching like you have to do good works, or you're not saved. This is the reason you're saved, is the good works that you do. And so when I was walking them through the many, many, many scriptures of salvation by grace, I remember having many conversations with him about that, and he couldn't believe it. Like, really? really? You don't? So that's been an interesting watching him walk through that process of really understanding what that means, and then also being able to answer the guys' questions when somebody has a question or somebody shares something that isn't right in our Bible studies. Then he can also address that. And then another interesting thing about Grace through so culturally in Uganda, marriage is challenging, like getting married, because you have actually 3 different ceremonies you have to do. Like here you have the wedding, right? And maybe a reception afterwards. In Uganda you have Nkwagala, which is the first visit. So they're kind of secretive about their dating relationships. And so then when they're ready to finally like make it public, they have the Nkwagala. So they like the man will go visit the wife's family and they'll negotiate a bride price. But then there's also a party and they have to give gifts. And so it's expensive to do that first visit. And then the second one, actually the second 2 would be the church wedding. As a Christian, everybody feels like they need a church wedding. And it needs to be big and expensive because culturally everyone pressures them to do that. Because if they don't do that, then they're not going to get invited to a lot of other things, and they're not going to. So community living is super important there. So it's really hard to step out of the mold and do something different and have a small wedding, a cheap wedding. So you have the wedding, and then you have something called an introduction, which is the cultural wedding that they still have to do. Even as Christians, they still do the introduction, and then they have to do the church wedding. So it's like 2 weddings basically, plus like a mini half wedding the first visit. So it's very expensive to do all of that. And a couple of years ago, this was like in 2021 maybe, I was talking to Grace. He had a girlfriend and he was thinking about marriage. Like, is it okay to like live with the girl and then get married later? And so I was upfront with him and I said, no, it's not okay. Like, you need to get married. And my perspective in that culture is you have so much cultural pressure to get married in the church, have a huge wedding and all this. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's important to have a church wedding. But also you have other options. So I was trying to help him think through what are your other options. Getting married in the courts and then have your church wedding as you're able to, but then you're at least legally married. And so thinking through those options with him, and he ended up not, at that point, he ended up not going with what I suggested. He had some trouble with his lady, and he has a son now. And the lady was from a Muslim family, so the family was like, no, you can't marry her, she's Muslim. So they took her away, so now he has this son, and he's met another girl that is willing to take his son as they get married, and she's Christian. And so he recently told me that partly because of his experience the first time, but also because of the conversations we've had, he told me that he is considering, because money is a big problem, he can't afford to pay this, he is planning to have the first visit, so he's met the family, and then traditionally, they're married after they've had the first visit, and the introduction can come later, even after kids. But he'll have the first visit, they'll get married in the courts, so they're legally married, and then as they have money, then they'll have the other big ceremony, like the big parties. So that was kind of cool to see his progression in that. We'll see what happens. You never know. There's a lot of cultural pressure that I don't understand, but I'm praying that he will stand up for what's right and maybe set a different example for the other guys in the shop. So those are the two main examples of discipleship that I've seen over the years. Yeah, and we've had another third one would be we've had many baptisms on our construction sites. So because of the Bible studies they have on the construction sites, they'll have baptisms every few years with guys that have decided to commit their lives to Christ, which is cool. It's neat to see. Yeah.
I just got to meet you for the first time.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other people here who haven't met you before or have heard you speak.
Mm-hmm.
Could you inform us about the relationship with your grandparents having been here and how we have that tie with you?
Yeah, so my grandparents, Roy and Eunice Van Gorkom, I think they've longtime members. I don't know when they moved here, but they were here for a long time. So whenever we were here on home assignment or furlough, as my parents called it. We would be here when we were staying with my grandparents. We would be here on Sundays. I remember running around playing with the Hunter boys, other kids that I don't know if many of them are here anymore, but some of them I recognize. But I remember running around outside playing. So that's kind of it's cool to have this long time connection with this church. And then when I was going out, launching with the OP mission in Karamoja, that's when I first started coming and kind of sharing about the work that I was doing. And it's just kind of been a progression from there. Yeah. And my parents were with Christian Veterinary Mission, like I mentioned earlier. So I remember my dad sharing about CVM work from here. So, yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about growing up in Africa?
Growing up in Africa.
We do not know you so much.
Yeah. So I was born in Arba Mench in southern Ethiopia. My parents were, at that point, they were working on a mission station in Alduba. It's like 2 hours or so from the Kenyan border. So very far south of Ethiopia. It took us about 18 hours to drive from the mission station to the capital city. Sometimes Dad would do it in one day, pack us up, leave really early, but often we would split it up into 2 days, and we would spend the night at Arba Mench, where I was born. So the first 12 years of my life, we were at Alduba, a very remote station. It was the Bana tribe. So I grew up speaking kind of a mixture of English, Bana, and Amharic, which is the national language, the official language. So I say that's why I don't really speak any of them well. I don't speak English. I can understand Amharic okay, mostly when my dad speaks it because he says things slower. But I never really learned. I never studied Amharic, so I never really learned how to speak it. So then when I was 12 or 13, just about to start 7th grade, we moved to the capital city, Addis Ababa, which is where the name for our daughter comes from, Addis. It means new. Addis Ababa means new flower. So that's where Addie's name comes from. And we went to, we were homeschooled before that, and then we went to a Christian school, Christian international school, called Mission School, called Bingham Academy. So that's where I graduated from, in Addis. So English is not a national language in Ethiopia. People are kind of proud that they speak Amharic, and so you had to know some Amharic to get around the city. It's different in Uganda. The English is the national language. Everybody speaks English mostly, so you don't have to learn the local language. I've tried a bit over the years, but it's hard to motivate learning when I can share in English. But yeah, that's a little bit about growing up in Africa and Ethiopia. Yeah.
Church, as far as churches, are there good churches that your guys can go to and you guys as well?
Yeah, so there are some good churches. A lot of them are more Pentecostal leaning. There are very few Reformed type churches. When we first moved there in 2017, we visited several churches with other EMI staff to see where we could fit in. And one of the first ones, I think maybe the first one that we visited, was New City Community Church, which meets right on the campus of ABU, of African Bible University. And we've never gone anywhere else. That's been our church home since 17. There was a Ugandan pastor there, Pastor Rogers. And he had really solid teaching. I think he had seminary training in the States. And he works with, it's called ACFAR, Africa Center for Apologetics Research. So I appreciated that. He researched all these cults in Africa and basically does presentations and trainings on what's the biblical truth behind it, fighting against that kind of thing. So we really liked that. So that's the church we've gone to, and that's kind of the reason we're able to stay at ABU is because we have that connection with a lot of the staff there because of where we've gone. There's a church called Watoto. I don't know if you've heard of Watoto Children's Choir. They travel around some in the U.S., but Watoto is a really big kind of Pentecostal church, but this Bible teaching is there. It's really loud, so it's not our preference. But there is some solid teaching, and yeah, there are some churches around that are okay, but definitely culturally different. So, yeah. Yeah. It depends on how you approach life with people. Because we've definitely interacted with expats, Americans that have come in, and they have kind of like that white savior mentality. Like I'm here to solve all your problems. But we've also seen many that come in humbly and build relationships and have great friends with Ugandans. And so I think it really depends from the Ugandans' perspective. It depends on how you come in, what your mentality is. If you, like for me in the workshop, I like joking around with the guys. We asked about their families. And so I think they see me as a friend, as also a manager, which is reasonable, but also a friend. So I think it depends on how you approach it. In EMI specifically, we have quite a high turnover rate with the expat staff. People like engineers, architects will come in for 2 to 5 years and then leave because of family needs, or they're retired and they just did that kind of as an end to their working, and then they're wanting to spend time with grandkids in the States or whatever reason. So our Ugandan staff, as well as those of us that have been there a while, have had to go through a lot of rotation, change with the staff, friends that have to go back to the States, and that's hard. So that develops a little bit of callousness maybe. It's challenging in our organizational culture when you know we have expat missionaries come in and you know they're going to leave at some point. But also Ugandans, we've had a lot of Ugandan staff turnover as well. So it's a unique challenge in EMI with that. But yeah, it depends, yeah.
So we're out of time. Would you mind closing us with prayer? And I'll encourage anybody who also has questions to come over to our house.
Sure.
afterwards.
Sure, yeah, let's pray. Lord God, thank you for this morning. Thank you that you are the ultimate builder, that you are at work in our lives, that we don't have to face this life by ourselves. Help us to be more dependent on you. I just pray that you would bless the work that EMI is doing and the workshop. Help us to know how to reach ministries and serve ministries well. Help this church to know how to pray. And bless the ministry that they have here in the community and within the church. Lord, I just pray that you bless this day, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.